Anyway, let's move on now to our final review of the evening. It is going to be of Uncharted, which is a 2022 American action-adventure film directed by Ruben Fleischer, who previously directed both Zombieland films, 2013's Gangster Squad and 2018's Venom. Based on Naughty Dog's video game series of the same name, it stars Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as his mentor, Victor Sullivan, with Sophie Ali, Tati Gabrielle, and Antonio Banderas in supporting roles. In the film, Drake is recruited by Sully in a race against corrupt billionaire Santiago Moncada, played by Banderas, and his hired mercenary Joe Braddock, played by Gabrielle, to locate the treasure of the Magellan expedition. Uncharted entered development in 2008, with producer Avi Arad stating that he would be working with Sony Pictures to develop a film adaptation of the video game series. This is 1 year after the release of the first game on PS3, by the way. It entered a complicated production process with various directors, screenwriters, and cast members attached at various points. Filmmakers David O. Russell, Neil Burgart, Seth Gordon, Sean Levy, Dan Trachtenberg. Oh, what I would give to see a Dan Trachtenberg version of this. And Travis Knight were initially signed to direct, while Wahlberg was set to play Drake in early development. He aged out of the role. Holland was cast as Drake in May 2017, and Fleischer was hired as the director in early 2020. Principal photography commenced in March 2020 before being quickly halted, resuming in July and finishing that October with filming locations including Babelsberg studio in Berlin and on location across Spain and Southeast Asia. Uncharted was originally set for release on December 18, 2020, but was postponed several times, namely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It appeared in Barcelona on February 7, 2022, and was theatrically released in the United States by Sony Pictures, releasing on February 18. The film received mixed reviews from critics, with praise for Holland's performance but criticism for the screenplay, casting, and lack of originality. The IMDb rating currently sits at 6.7 from 38,000 users, while the Metascore is a 45 from the critics. Rotten Tomatoes, gentlemen, I'm going to go to Terry first, since you haven't seen this one. Take a wild stab in the dark.
Wild stab in the dark. So it's not being super well received. I'm going to go 68.
45.
70.
Whoa. You guys think way too highly of this film. 40%.
Wow.
Nice.
Rotten.
Good.
I guess I got closest with 45.
This is true. Is that you
Asher,
appealing to go first, Ben?
Oh, yes, please.
Uncharted, Ben. This is Sony Pictures delving into a PlayStation production. You would have seen the PlayStation Productions logo splash screen at the start, showcasing all their cinematic video game efforts. They've had films such as Ratchet and Clank recently, which I'm not sort of sure got a cinematic release here locally, but not a lot of success. Has Tom Holland helped change things here, Ben? What do you think of Uncharted?
I didn't like it at all. There was nothing enjoyable about it whatsoever. I didn't hate it. Like, I wasn't like, this movie is insulting me, I feel stupid for watching it, I'm furious at how bad it is or anything. It just didn't do anything particularly well. The opening was okay. Like, it was pretty jam-packed full of action in the very first couple of minutes. Like, he's falling in the air. Like, he wakes up plummeting to the earth. And I thought, is this Crank? Sorry?
Predators as well. They do that as well.
Oh,
Adrian Brody comes to consciousness. Skydiving.
Right. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then it goes 20 years earlier. And then it's him as a kid with his big brother, and they're breaking into some museum because that's what kids did back then, as we all remember. And
every other Thursday
they do like a really cheap and stupid callback. Like, the worst line in the movie is the first 10 minutes of the film, where his big brother says like something like, we've got pirate blood in us, at least that's what mum and dad used to say. And then it goes to like the younger brother, and he like looks sad. Oh, that's right, my parents are dead. Why'd you have to bring it up? That kind of thing. I hated that line so much. I did want to leave. I don't leave movies at the cinema, but I really, really thought about leaving during that one.
It's like, I can get my money back right now. It hasn't been 20 minutes.
I was so close to actually leaving the other day. I saw Liam Neeson's latest
I don't know why you bothered to go watch it in the first place.
I just haven't been to the movies.
Morbid curiosity, but also,
yeah, morbid curiosity maybe.
Day out of the
Oh man, the director of that, woof. He was doing this Bollywood editing style thing where he to inject us with suspense or something, he would do this cut where it would wobble and zoom in like someone's high on something but nobody is, and it would like go like that, like super, like go out of focus and stuff, really Bollywood. And he did that at the start and I was like, okay like that. And then he did it like 7 more times throughout the movie, and I was like grabbing my forehead like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore, this is really bad. Anywho, Uncharted. I thought I was watching like Crank 2 for a second, which was really great, and then it went like 20 years ago, and then it became like Indiana Jones crosses what's the we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
National Treasure.
Yes, National Treasure.
Yeah.
Becomes that kind of a film. That's all right. Like it wasn't as good, which is saying
not
something.
saying much.
Yeah, I'm not saying much.
No, it is. Yeah.
It didn't ascend to National Treasure depths, but it was okay yet ridiculous. Like they're in like ancient city, finding ancient clues in the middle of modern overlapping ancient city stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was weird. It was weird. It was fine. It was fine. Like again, they didn't do anything for me to go like this is ridiculous, I hate it. But it didn't impress ever. Like I wasn't ever like, oh, this is going to be great. Oh, I love that. It hit a couple of tropes that I will appreciate, that it's just like I seem to hate this and no one else in the world seems to hate, like the idea that it's mostly a Marvel thing. The fanboy pleasing fetishism of showing the hero in his costume. I hate that. I hate it. And like it's so annoying. But it happens in this. He finally achieves his costume where he puts on like a gun holster holster thingy, and he's got his white shirt on or whatever, and then the theme rises up and it's like all like, oh, you're there, you've done it, you've become Nathan Drake or whatever, and it's like he just put a holster on his, like, what are we doing? And other than that, the ending is completely ridiculous. Like it's completely ridiculous. It's Scarlett Johansson, the Black Widow, all over again. It's just like flying spaceship in the sky, falling to the earth, and she's like jumping on the rubble. Ridiculousness, completely as absolutely as ridiculous as that. It's like a helicopter that can like pick up a load of like a couple of tons is picking up a load of 1,000 tons, and then like flying through the landscape with it and avoiding calamity. It's completely bonkers. The movie could have ramped to that, like based on the start of the film, it was completely bonkers. And if it had stayed on that track and was completely bonkers the whole way through, I wouldn't be talking about how ridiculous and bad the end is. But the movie tries to really ground itself into like, this could actually be happening, and there could actually be a treasure that they're trying to find.
Right.
These clues could actually have been here, and they're just smart enough to find them. And then it goes back into just complete lunacy. Again, it's just like way out of left field. It's absolutely silly. The main character doesn't learn a single fucking thing. Like there's no arc for this character at all, except maybe don't trust people. No, he doesn't trust people anyway. Yeah, there's nothing for this guy to learn. There's nothing for any of the characters to learn. There's the maid lead girl. Her accent, awful. She's not doing an accent. She's Australian, doing her Australian thing or whatever. Hated hearing every word out of her mouth. I like that. Apologies. Like, I just don't like Australian accents, I guess. It was just horrible. I was like, ugh. Every time she would speak, I was just like, really, ugh. But that's petty. I'll admit to being petty and not liking her speaking. But her character was primed to learn something. Like her whole, my dad left, so now I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you, and I'm going to you know, we're all backstabbing each other every chance we get because we want to get to the prize first and not share it with anybody. Or really what we want is not to be backstabbed out of the prize is what we want most.
So yeah, I'm going to get backstabbed. I might as well backstab first.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
her angle.
It's all
And
preemptive of the preemptive strikes.
she has every opportunity to learn something, like grow as a character, and then the characters can trust each other, and everything will be great, all that kind of stuff. It never gets there. Nobody learns anything. Like, I'm just harping on about the fact that there's no character arcs for anybody. It's just kind of annoying.
Well, I mean, that's an important part of storytelling. That seems like a pretty big flaw. Like, if there's no growth and if there's no stakes, like there needs to be rising to a challenge. There needs to be overcoming your own inner demons. Like a hero arc needs some type of contention or growth or struggle. And if it doesn't have that, then like what the fire truck's the point?
Yeah. I mean, the only other things I could say are small petty things, except for one, which is the main bad is like the most prominent villain is constantly being undermined. Like, it's like she's Robotnik in Sonic. Like, every level she's being defeated. So why are we afraid of this person? Like, she doesn't invoke the respect of a bad guy. Like, I'm never in fear of what she's going to do next because she can't seem to do anything right. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. But at the same time, like, one of the greatest villain arcs that we've seen in pop culture within like the past decade or so would be Zuko out of Avatar, right? And he's a villain constantly being undone by his own ego, and he has like this incredible growth arc. So I agree that she isn't a threat, but at the same time, it's like we have seen great examples of villains who are on their own growth path and are interesting because of that. But to your point, Ben, it's not fleshed out here.
Yeah. So I mean, I really just have one more point, except there's a scene where she has to beat up some neutral enemies that like are guarding the place that everyone's breaking into this place. There are security. What's his face? Wahlberg kind of like tricks his way out of being pursued by the security, and then they go after her instead or whatever, and she has to like fight 3 of them at once, and it is bad. It is a bad single shot choreography fight where one bad guy is like, I'm coming at you real slow. Oh, you blocked me. Oh, I'm being knocked out because you punched me in the balls or whatever. And it's like that. It's really bad single moment of the film, which shouldn't matter. But if I have a grudge, I would bring it up. Yeah. Anyway, I just didn't really like it.
That's all.
Who else saw it?
Passing the ball.
I know Jason is going to say I loved it. He's going to say it was the best movie ever. Better than Indiana Jones. He's going to say better than all the Indiana Joneses put together.
So Terry hasn't seen it, so it's across to you, Mr. Miro.
Yeah, so I'm not as low on this film as Ben.
I liked it.
I liked it. Okay, so here's the thing.
Oh gosh, you're way up here.
So, I knew this movie wasn't going to live up to any expectations that anyone had for this film. Like, the games are so cinematic as it is. It's just there's no way that they're going to cram it all into the thing. The whole like him waking up unconscious is straight from the second game, and that whole plane thing is straight from the third game. But getting ahead of myself, like this movie, I knew it was going to be bad, so I was just along for the ride. I was there for the set pieces. I was there to see him solve and raid the tombs and go into uncharted territories. And, thank you. But like, I like some moments there were, where it was like, kind of impressed me. So there's a moment when Tom Holland is fighting. Nathan Drake is fighting some goons up on a balcony, and he does this thing like a gymnast thing where he gets on the railing and like spins around and then like kicks a guy, which is freaking awesome. I was like, whoa, that's impressive. I wonder if they used wire or if Tom Holland did that on his own.
That's his Spidey training.
Yeah, and the whole time I was like, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
Running down things like Spider-Man.
And he's like making quips to the bad guy at the start of the film. Like he like punches the guy. He's like, "I'm sorry, that was just a reflex" or something like that. And as he falls to his death or whatever.
But that's like Nathan Drake in the games as well.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, cracking quips. And
I remember seeing a meme about this where he straight up murders a bunch of people and then makes a joke about it because that's what the character does when he like lays waste to people.
Which is a good point because like I don't think he killed anyone in this whole movie. Like he knocked some people off of a ledge. They might have sustained major injuries.
He definitely shoots at someone. So like
shoots at someone.
It's his own fault that he didn't. Like if he missed, but
it's like
he certainly wanted to.
The type of shooting at someone was like that Naked Gun clip where the two people like behind cover and they're shooting at each other and they're like inches apart from each other and they just keep missing. So look and like the puzzle solving and things, I'm like it's totally this. It's totally they figured it out. I'm like, they're like
they just needed to remember to look for the glowy shiny bit if they stay still for a little bit, because the game's gonna give them the hint, right?
Full disclosure, I love National Treasure.
Surprise! Mira likes the Nick Cage film.
It's so stupid. But like I know I'm going into watch Uncharted and just going I'm not turned on at all. Like nothing
brain's turned off is what you're saying.
Yeah. Nothing's
firing. If you're not turned on looking at Tom Holland shirtless, Jason, there's something totally wrong with you.
Or Marky Mark. Or Antonio Banderas.
It's getting a bit there.
And like I'm just eating popcorn, eating pods, just watching what's happening on the screen. Like it was stupid. And watching things get like stupider and stupider, like falling off of a plane, and then like the big climax moment with the things, I was like, that's insane. I can't believe that's not in the movie yet. That's not in the games yet. So that was cool. I did have some criticisms, like one big major criticism, and this is like the whole fanboy thing that you were talking about, Ben, is like, where the hell is the freaking Uncharted theme? The whole thing in my head, like going into this film, it's just like I'm humming it to myself. The Uncharted theme. And then they played it like twice.
Yeah.
When he puts on the thing and assumes the costume, they did it then. And at the end, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and there was this cameo, like an obvious cameo. I didn't know who this dude was at all. And they're like just walking up to this guy and he's like, "Hey, where have you guys come from?" And they said like, from the, I don't know, we came from the sky or something like that. And he's like, "Hey, a similar thing happened to me once. All right, bye." And I was like, what the fuck was that? That's ridiculous. That was like the worst acting I ever heard. Surely he's like, I don't know, the creator of the game or something. I don't know.
So he plays Nathan Drake in the game.
Oh, so he's an actor.
The actor.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, well he sucks.
The thing is though, I said at the start of the film to the people I went with, I'm like, I bet you Nolan North is going to be in this film.
Oh, it has to be.
And there he was. Yeah. And so when he came,
I thought they'd do it more elegantly than that, but
no, it was a bit on your nose. But when he came, I was like, and did the slap, and they're like, so yeah, it was good. It was enjoyable. Like for me, I enjoyed watching the film. I know it is not going to win any awards. And I think the reason why I went in to go watch it is to scratch those itches of like, I wonder what it's like to see the things that are happening in the game on the big screen. And then I saw it, and then I was like, okay, cool. And the same reasons why I think I really like watching the Marvel movies, to see them in costume. Like, okay, the thing that I love on paper or love on the screen in a video game form, like presented in live action, and see if Hollywood can do it as well as the medium that I'm absorbing it in, or in the video games that I'm playing it in, or how I'm imagining it in my head playing out. Like I read Ready Player One, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. They've got Evangelion units up against like Mecha Godzilla, up against Gundams, up against like Ultraman. This is like so cool. And seeing how they were going to translate that into the movie was just really cool itch that I wanted scratched, and I was waiting to get scratched, and they scratched it. Well, you know how like you get an itch on your back and you ask someone to itch it for you,
And they're
and
not quite hitting the exact
they're
right
not.
spot.
Yeah, and then sometimes they hit the exactly. You're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the kind of like sketching. It feels good. It satisfies the itch, but like I'm still gonna rub my back on a chair.
I love that metaphor because imagine you were never itchy and some dude just starts scratching your back and you're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Why is this a
Yeah.
thing? That's me. I don't have the itch to start with, and yet I'm
Yeah.
like, why are you scratching me there? Just show me a
Yeah.
film. Show me a good.
This is
show me a good film.
non-consensual, my
Yeah.
guy.
I like the idea of this person on Ben is just like singing the Uncharted theme as he does it. It's just
Singing and like whispering, Nathan Drake.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
not
So
funny for me.
I guess like if I was going to review the film, just sort of turn it on, just put it on, have it in the background, or if you want to. I enjoyed it. If you're sitting there, if you're doing the whole like I'm gonna hover around the TV while I potter around and do housework, and then like keep watching, and then end up sitting down like halfway through the film, then that's good. I enjoyed it. It's not for everyone. And it's stupid, and I know it's stupid. Tom Holland was not the right person for Nathan Drake, but he's marketable because he's Spider-Man,
he's hot property at the moment.
It's hot property.
He is the
Like
biggest
Keanu Reeves.
star on the planet at the moment.
Yeah.
100%.
But Mr. Shane, how did you?
I land somewhere in the middle, where very similar to you, Jason. I had very, 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 very low expectations for this film. But I really wanted to go to the movies. And
Can you imagine doing that with any other thing? Like you're sitting down for a meal that your mum's cooking. You're like, this is going to taste like absolute dog crap. I have no expectations for this. Why would you eat the food? Don't get something else. Like,
That's
Yeah.
how I feel when
Tell
I eat
your-
Macca's. I'll order nuggets. I'm like, this is gonna be cold. It's not gonna be crunchy. And then I get like nuggets that are like hot and like crispy. You go, this is freaking good nuggets.
yes, but what you're saying is, when
You're
they are
surprised
still
when it's
cold and
Yeah.
and gross,
Yeah.
you will eat them and say that really scratched that itch that I had for these cold nuggets.
You get cold, soggy nuggets. Yeah.
Thanks, Macca's.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shane.
no, that's all right. I was going to say, yeah, very, 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 very low expectations for this one. And I came away leaning positive only because I was pleasantly surprised more often than I was disappointed. But having said that, this is not a good movie. Like, I'm not sure you can describe much of this film and point to that and be like, hey, that's great, like, or that's great. And what is great isn't an important ingredient in what makes a film, what makes a great movie, like cinema going experience. So I wrote down quite a few thoughts. I'm just going to rattle through them. I think it has a decent amount of heart. I think the whole angle with Drake and his brother Sam, I like what they're trying to do there. They're trying to add a bit of character depth, and that's something that they explore through the later video games in particular. But you have to remember, like, these games, they're good stories, but they're not mind blowing. Storytelling wise, like, yes, they pushed the video game medium, forward in a cinematic sense, and what we're able to achieve with animation and that sort of thing. And there is nuance and subtlety to these performances, the likes of which we hadn't really seen before in video games. And so that's why they're important to the medium and the history of video games. But if you take like any of the Uncharted video games, extract that story and squeeze it into a 2-hour film, it's exactly this. Not a great film, like not a something to write home about. And where a video game has 12-15 hours to expand upon these characters and really explore the relationship between Drake and Sully, or Drake and Elena, or bring in Chloe, a movie doesn't have that. And this film doesn't try to be anything more than what it's trying to adapt. And even in its adaptation of the video games, it's not pulling from, I don't think it's pulling the best parts about why we love those games. I will agree that it's it does a good job of not making Nathan Drake a mass murderer. Like by the end of our Uncharted game, you have killed 1,000 plus people. So that's a good thing. I'll say the only good thing they pulled is the cinematic set pieces. Like this is what the Uncharted franchise is known for, those set pieces. It's the plane over the African desert. It's the trains in Uncharted 2. It's the bell tower in Uncharted 4. So I totally understand, Ben, that like the like to you, like that whole last action scene is completely ridiculous, and it is. But as someone looking to see how they can bring to life the video game franchise, I'm like, holy crap, this would be amazing if it were in a game. But as a cinematic set piece in a film, it doesn't quite work, because
doesn't translate.
Well, one, there aren't enough. I can't. It's funny. I'm wary about spoiling, even though the entire third act is in the trailer. No word of a lie. Like legit. Go watch the trailer, Ben. The helicopters attaching onto the things, lifting them out of the hole, flying across the ocean. It's just I couldn't believe it.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought there were a couple of like odd costuming choices.
And we can talk about them. You know how heavy those fucking things are? There's like
a pirate ship,
50 trees worth of timber in a old pirate sailboat. And this helicopter is picking it up. It's outrageous.
Yeah. So anyway, they're swaying and like flying over the ocean, and characters are leaping and swinging from one to the other, and that is all in the trailer. I was absolutely blown away. But I feel like they did that because, other than the first action scene, nothing in the middle of the film is thrilling whatsoever. There's a chase scene across a roof for a moment, and it's just one character chasing another. There's a bit of a fisticuffs in like a Barcelona bar that is just not compelling whatsoever. Nothing unique is being done here. And even when they do try to do something interesting, like you mentioned, Jason, with Drake in the auction at that auction charity ball thing or whatever it was, like nothing there is interesting. And then to make it interesting, they deviate away from what's true of the character of Nathan Drake. Like Nathan Drake isn't a gymnast, he's an everyman. So anything that Tom Holland did that could be derived from a performance of from Peter Parker or Spider-Man, that isn't Drake. Like Drake is wailing and just doing his best and just like throwing punches and grabbing guns out of the air just because they're there, sort of thing. So what is like great about the characters is not represented here truly in the film. So I thought that was a bit disappointing. And then there are just really bad cinema sins that feature in every poor action film, but they're no less painful here. There's one moment where Sully has the jump on the villain and he's pointing a gun at them, and he has to like reach back to like grab an item that's fallen on the floor, and then he just completely turns away with his gun still facing the antagonist, looking for this item, and then lo and behold, the gun gets knocked out of his hand. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that kind of, like, to your point, Ben, that to me felt insulting. I'm like, how, like,
right.
I can't believe that a character would be that dumb. Like this character who's meant to be, who for a moment got the jump on pickpocketing the pickpocketer in the very first act. A character with that smarts just was duped by the antagonist that way. I couldn't believe it. There was another moment where Nate, having misled the villains in the third act, then finds where the treasure is and just casually drives his boat past where he sent the villains, and like, what are you doing? And then he
knows that they're there. He knows that they could see him, and they do, and that's calamity.
Again, it's just a lazy way for the writers to say, we need a way for the villains to realize they're in the wrong place. I'm like, come up with something more interesting. And there was another,
and even if even if it was something stupid like Star Trek-y, like they have a device that pings like with like radar or sonar, or they like, oh no, maybe we should have found it by now,
right?
Like send a fella to go back, and then he radios and he's like, we've been duped, we've been had. Like anything, it can be as cheesy as it has to be without it being dumb.
Yeah, that's it. And there was another just patronizing dialogue as well. There was one moment where Drake sees like a container of gunpowder and looks at it and says, gunpowder. I'm like, oh my god, like, how dumb do you think I am as a member of the audience?
It's like, I didn't think it was cracked pepper, son.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the humor didn't land in this whatsoever. Like, I was in a cinema half capacity and barely anyone was laughing. It didn't land for me, which I thought was a bit disappointing because, yeah, Uncharted is known to be a rompous ride with, lovable characters that make you chuckle. So that was a bit disappointing. And I will say that I thought Banderas was underutilized as well. Like, he... I thought that was pretty disappointing as one of the better actors in the entire film. So look, overall, even with all that negativity said, like I said, my expectations were so low. So when there was something half decent in the film, I was like, oh, you exceeded my expectations in some small way. So yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Having not seen the movie, so it's more broadly around film adaptations of video games. Like, you've got a recent film in the Sonic the Hedgehog thing with
James Marsden.
Yeah, James Marsden, as in the James.
From the hit movie.
Yeah, from the hit 2011 film Flop, or Hop, or whatever it was.
Hop, definitely called Hop.
But it was a flop. Anyway, like the whole idea, because for me, you mentioned something that made me think of this pretty hard, which was talking about the fact that a video game has like 10, 15, 12, like however many hours it is of interactivity. And if it's a game where there's your choices have implications and kind of changes the way a story unfolds, maybe there's some replayability, you get another 15 to 20 hours doing it through a different pathway. Skyrim's a good example of it being like a sandbox. You can just do different character builds and all of that sort of good business. The key difference for me in storytelling in the medium of a video game is there doesn't need to be a hell of a lot of story for you to grip onto, because there's all of the interactivity. The fact that you're the fact that you are in control of the character. And so I haven't played Uncharted, but I've played games like Uncharted, and for me, the immersion into the world, being the character and putting my testing my steel or metal against the mechanics of the game, where the enjoyment is. And so when you've got a game like Uncharted, and I think the same can be said of Tomb Raider, the story that unfolds in those games isn't particularly deep, and so therefore it's impossible for it to translate well to the screen in the film, like in a cinematic film format, because it just doesn't have the depth or the breadth of the story that's necessary to kind of carry that off. And so I like Jason said that he knew this movie was going to be bad. You said your expectations were so low, and so you were able to kind of retrieve some type of value out of it. And I just can't bring myself to do that unless it's specifically for this show. I can't bring myself to spend money, even though money isn't an issue for us, on a movie that and anything that I know is going to be bad. I will make bad judgment calls. Like Ben and I played Lost Ark recently, and I put money into that game. I was like, yeah, you get some cool benefits, and so yeah, I'll put some money in it. And I've played literally 11 hours. It was a horrible investment for the amount of money that I paid to what I've kind of retrieved from that game. I don't mind making a bad call, but I didn't know that was what was going to happen. Knowing that you're going to be in for a bad experience, like I don't know.
But sometimes
I think maybe
for me it wasn't a certainty. I was prepared for it to be that.
Right.
Like I
No,
was
fair.
hoping
That's
that I would be more surprised. And like I said, there were moments that pleasantly surprised me. At the end of the day, I just like Tom Holland as well, so I'm just going to enjoy
for sure,
like, his
for sure,
and his his performance as well. So I just wanted to
like
be out
for
of
Adam Driver
again. So
I think for me, sometimes I just want popcorn silly flicks. And I enjoy those. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Room with Tommy Wiseau. Like,
there's your explanation,
I'm a glutton for punishment. So, it's one of the one of the greatest movies you could ever watch.
Yeah. And I hear that as well, Jace. Like, I too like the popcorn experience, but like, there are fantastic action movies out there that don't require you to be paying too much attention, or to be fully invested, right? Like I'm thinking of something like the Bourne movies,
Master
for
and
instance,
Commander.
right? Master and Commander.
Master and Commander's
like
great.
Mad Max Fury Road, like they're like the idea, like it's not. I'm trying to say it's not mutually exclusive. Like you can have great action, great popcorn cinema, Avengers, you know, Infinity War, like you know, Thor,
Yeah.
Ragnarok, Guardians, they've it's been done before, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's you go into these films and you hope, but I was never going to bet on this being a good movie. I will say that it is overperforming in terms of Sony's expectations. And it's done rather well.
That makes me sad because that makes me think they're going to do it again.
That's
Like
again.
as in a subpar movie. Because this is the whole reason why I stopped watching the X-Men films, was because like they were successful enough that they were like, well, we made money, so let's slap that dead horse across the face and do it again. And people kept going, and it kept being financially. But I'm like, it's objectively bad. Well, it's not objective. People enjoy
for me,
it.
like this is.
I just don't understand it.
This is like a Netflix original action film. Like it is good enough to, you know, entertain the masses to the point that it's financially viable. And like anything beyond that, from the studio's perspective, is like, why do we need to do better if this film with a smaller budget, you know, exceeds expectations?
It's so hard to do better, apparently. Like to make Dune, it's like the hardest thing. It's like it's like the best thing that 200 people will ever do in their life. Like 200 very influential people to the outcome of the final product of the film, and they all have to do their life's best to make a great film like Dune to happen. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it must be really, really difficult to pop one out whenever you want, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that makes sense.
That is Uncharted. It is still in cinemas, I think, and surely will be on Netflix not too far from now. So check it out if you dare.